The rapture is coming, or perhaps it already came. What is the rapture? Well, I'm glad you asked. The rapture, according to Christianity, which spawned the idea in the first place, relates to the second coming of Jesus, and it has two parts. The first part is basically Jesus coming down to earth, scooping up all the good little believers and whisking them away to the heavens while leaving behind the rest of us. And the second part is the second advent, which happens after the rapture and sucks a lot. To quote Revelation chapter 19 to 22, after 1,000 years, living unbelievers and the wicked dead, now raised to life, will be judged at the great white throne judgment. They will then be cast into the lake of fire, while the saved will live forever with Christ in a new heaven and earth. Harsh much? Anyways, the reason many people think that the rapture already took place is because they believe that we are essentially living through this second advent, aka this is hell on earth. By the way, this also means that if you are still here, unfortunately, you weren't picked for Jesus's eternal baseball team or fantasy football league or whatever, so, keep that in mind. Starting off with the obvious reason why people believe that the rapture has already taken place: drought, famine, and the fires of hell. First up, the fires of hell, which we have seen a lot of in the past few years. Forest fires encroaching on cities in record-breaking numbers, spreading smoke across countless stretches of land. Over the past 10 years alone, we have seen devastating wildfires taking place in Africa, India, Israel, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Mongolia, Pakistan, Southeast Asia, Syria, Vietnam, the Arctic, Croatia, France, Greece, Italy, the Med, and a crap ton of other European countries, as well as Canada and the US. Honestly, if I tried to name all the places, and furthermore all the fires that occurred in each place, we would be here all day. Seriously, it's insane. In more recent years, wildfires have cost the United States up to $893 billion in damages annually, which is equivalent to 4% of the country's GDP, which stands for gross domestic product, which, if you don't know, is a monetary measure of the market value of all the final goods and services produced in a specific time period by the country. Or, in other words, the US lost a crap ton of money because of the gosh darn second advent. I said gosh darn, calm down. And then of course there is drought and famine, which kind of go hand in hand with the fires. I mean, drought causes fire, and drought and fires cause famine. In 2020, global conditions reached their peak as we saw the most amount of land since 2012 go under extreme drought conditions. Since then, droughts in the West have continued to increase, especially in the Pacific Northwest due to record-breaking heat. There's no denying temperatures are rising. And all of this has led to an increase in farmers' ability to grow crops, which has in turn led to a global increase in widespread famine. A report published in 2022 showed that in recent years the number of people suffering from famine worldwide reached 783 million, and 40 more million are facing emergency levels of hunger across 51 countries. It's not looking good, you guys. Now, for those of you not yet buying the generalized warning signs of drought, famine, and the literal fires of hell, perhaps you will take my next point just a little bit more seriously, because, again, this is just according to the Bible, you will know the rapture has taken place when you see increased hostility towards Israel and the process of the redefining and rebuilding of Jerusalem. Yep, I will give you a minute to take that all in. Alright, minutes up, let's get into it. While I cannot really divulge fully into the ongoing conflict, unless of course I want to get the channel banned, which I don't, I will say this. A quote from Luke 21:20 that says, "But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation is near." Whether or not the armies are their own is not specified. I only bring this up because it's a pretty specific indicator of the fact that the rapture has already taken place, and I figured if you clicked on this video, that fact would probably be of interest to you. Keep in mind, this is an entertainment channel that discusses facts and theories, so that is truly all I can say on the matter. We're gonna move on. And then of course there are the earthquakes and other natural catastrophes. I mean, other than the fires, drought, and famine, of course. In Malachi 3:6, it is written that you will be punished by the Lord of hosts with thunder and earthquakes and great noise, with storm and tempest and the flame of devouring fire. Great, that's just great. Since 2018, earthquake rates have been on a steady rise. And on March 6th of this year, 2024, ONC's Neptune Observatory recorded more more than 200 earthquakes, including one with a magnitude of 4.1 in the span of just 24 hours. As for other natural disasters, well, major floods have almost doubled since 1999, and the number of storms has risen 40%, and we have seen a major increase in, as I mentioned, droughts, wildfires, and heat waves. Not only are these events becoming more and more frequent, they have also become more extreme and, as a result, far more expensive. In fact, the average cost of disaster cleanup has jumped an astonishing 1,250% in the last 50 years alone. Another surefire sign that the end is near and the righteous and chosen have already come and gone, other than everything I've just mentioned of course, is disease, epidemics, wickedness, war, and turmoil. Not so fun fact, by the year 2030, the proportion of total global deaths as a direct result of chronic disease is expected to increase to 70%, with the most common diseases being cardiovascular diseases and diabetes. And then there was the global epidemic, an oxymoron I know, that started in 2019 and still hasn't actually fully stopped. I mean, just prior to the current president of the United States, Joe Biden, dropping out of the race for re-election against Donald Trump, it was reported that he had once again caught the most irritating flu of the 21st century. You know what I mean, the one that kept us confined to our homes for the past 3 years or so. I'm not allowed to actually say what it's called on here, but you know what it is. It's not looking good. And then of course, war and turmoil are next, with tensions rising in Europe and the Middle East between China and Taiwan and North and South Korea. Kim Jong-un recently sent balloons filled with poop across the border. It's safe to say that things are not looking great in that realm either, and it's entirely possible that sometime in the near future we may very well be staring down the barrel of World War III. I mean, I hope that we aren't, but based on the way that things have been going, I wouldn't bet my livelihood on it. Now, with all of this going on, one can only assume that the economy has suffered. Yep, well, one would be right. But don't worry, according to CNN, the economy is nowhere near as bad as it was in the 1970s. That being said, according to CBC, the bad economic times have only just begun, and Canada might soon be facing a recession. And according to US News Money, there is a 55.8% chance that the US will experience a recession within the next 12 months. With that being said, I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life or anything, but maybe invest in some gold or something. It might help in the long run when the dollar takes a nosedive down to the floor. Alright, moving on from the incredibly depressing impending economic turmoil, let's talk about another indication that the end of days are near, and that is false messiahs and false teachings. When I think of false messiahs, I generally think of cult leaders like Alan John Miller and Mary Luck of the Divine Truth, or Tom Cruise of Scientology. That's a joke, please don't sue me. Anyways, while cult leaders do tend to falsely claim to be some kind of reincarnated Jesus, or better yet God themselves, there are also a lot of people who are without large and dedicated followings who have made the same or similar claims in the past few years alone. Most notably perhaps would be Ezra Nukaram, an American actor who in 2022 claimed to be both Jesus and the devil, as well as a messiah to Native Americans. He went on to seek treatment for complex mental health issues. Gabby Hanna, a former Vine and current TikTok micro-celebrity, also claimed in 2022 to have been the second coming of Jesus. There are many, many more, but if I were to name every single man, woman, child, and dog who falsely claimed to be the father of Jesus or the son of God, we would honestly be here all day. We will surely know the rapture has taken place when the Book of Mormon has been brought forth and is taken to all the world. Isaiah 29:4-18. I have to say, I really don't understand the chapter systems and all of these old pieces of religious text, but I digress. The Book of Mormon is a religious text first published in 1830 about the Latter-day Saint movement. It's also a musical comedy about two Mormons who get sent to Africa to spread the good word of the Lord, and it's hilarious. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. Not if you're easily offended though. It's also currently on tour. A world tour. That's right, just as the Bible predicted, the Book of Mormon has been brought forth and is currently making its way around the globe, spreading joy and offending many worldwide. Now, I'm assuming when religious texts were referring to the global spread of the Book of Mormon when talking about the rapture, they probably meant the one published in the 1800s, but if that was really the case, they probably should have been a little more specific. But of course, the most undeniable fact that tells us that we are indeed living through the end of times is the fact that Matthew 24, Luke 21, the Book of Revelation chapter 6, and many other pieces of religious texts have kinda just said so. According to the book of Revelation, the rapture has taken place when a loaf of bread, or 3 pounds of barley flour, is $20, and there is no olive oil or wine. Considering the fact that loaves of organic bread nowadays can cost up to $20, and the fact that Ontario, Canada just recently experienced their liquor store workers going on strike and therefore the 4-week closure of liquor stores across the province, I'm definitely seeing the correlation. In the book of Matthew, it is written that nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. Check. We know what's going on in the world. In references to current turmoil as well, Luke 21 said, "When you see these things happening, know that the kingdom of God is near, and that heaven and earth will pass away." Dark. Basically, according to economic experts, climate change activists, foreign leaders, and the literal Bible, we are screwed. And soon, the world as we know it could very well meet its end. But, you know, no stress. I've been your host, Hannah Thompson. I'll see you next time, if the world's still around.